Now don't get too caught up in what this code looks like and the specifics behind it. There's many more videos down the road that cover the very specifics of this code. This is just an overview of what a view is doing and how a view gets generated from a controller. So here we have our list. .html. This is our actual view file, and you can see here's our simple HTML starting information, our header and that type of stuff. We'll cover this, what this is in other videos. Then finally we have one line of code here, and it's a render. Again, don't get too caught up what this code is. This specific symbol right here, you got an opening and closing one, is embedded Ruby. So the little bracket, %, and I'll talk about the equal sign. But this actually is Ruby code that gets rendered by the controller, by Rails, and then put out whatever that HTML gets generated, gets put out to your browser. So in this case, this is a render command, and it's going to render another view, a partial view, called the list _list. Now you'll notice that I have a file up here, but it's called _the list, and these are some convention details, and when we get into actual coding stuff, I'll cover them a little bit more in depth. But any view that's going to be rendered as a partial, as denoted here, you will call it by saying whatever the name is without an underscore in front of it. The actual file name in your file system will have an underscore in front of it, denoting that it's a partial view. And this shouldn't be called as a main view, that it should only be called from within other views, because there might be some information variables that need to be set for it to be called. The power of this is that you can use this partial view in many other view files, and that's why we want to do something like that, and we'll cover that again in other videos. Now here's the meat of our final view that gets rendered in the browser. You can see here's our table set up, here's our table rows, and I was pointing out to you earlier that there was 4 rows in that source code. If we jump over here, you see there's 4 table rows that are generated, but there's only one table row here actually defined right here. That's because we have this wrapped in a for loop using this instant variable that we set up. Let's take a look back at our controller here. This instant variable, all recipes, is an array of recipes. We told the recipe class to go ahead and find all of our recipes and put them into this variable, all recipes. And now we can run a for loop, and this is how we march through each element in there. So we set this local variable to each element in here. So the syntax is for a recipe in all recipes, we're going to generate a table row and then some table elements with specific information in each of those table cells. And don't get too caught up in the specifics here, but the idea is that this code gets rendered, and actually Ruby goes through here and runs these different commands before the HTML gets generated. And then finally, once Ruby runs through that, generates the HTML, then it's kicked out to your browser, and the end result is this code that you're seeing here. Now there's lots of little embedded things inside here that when we get into coding, you'll learn specific commands, what they actually mean. Other little thing I'll point out is that you'll notice that, and you're probably looking at it going, well, there's a bracket % here, and then there's a bracket % equal sign here. The difference is if this code, Ruby code inside here, is not going to render and just going to do something but not actually put any output out, you don't need an equal sign. If it's going to actually put output, print something, you need the equal sign to let Rails know that this is going to output something. So that's a basic overview of our view in our model view controller paradigm. And in another video, in other videos, we cover the controller and the model, so you can get a more complete view of how Rails is actually using the model view controller paradigm.